If your life is really challenging right now, in the future it won't be. That's not true necessarily. Maybe you didn't choose the hard that you have right now. And, maybe you're living on the street. You didn't choose that. It doesn't mean eventually you're going to be living in a mansion.
The U.S., we have the biggest obesity problem in the world, essentially. From my understanding. I could Google it, but I do believe that's true. But I looked around and I just had this moment of sadness for people. And I thought to myself, wow, life really is hard. Life is just really hard. I mean, it's hard to work out every day. That's why almost no one does it.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Today, for episode number 1795, why bumper sticker self-improvement doesn't work. You have heard us talk about this often, I would say, because there are a lot of quotes out there that sound really good on a social media post, or they sound really good inside a fortune cookie, or they would sound really good on the back of a bumper sticker if you were trying to inspire the people behind you. But they do not necessarily create any meaningful change because they're just inspirational, they're just well-written. I assume they're well-intended, and it's from a place of well-intent, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to help you. There is a song by one Beanie Siegel. It is called Feel It in the Air. It is a banger. Great song. And in the song, he says, shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you're still amongst the stars. And it's rhymed and rapped really nicely. But I would consider that a bumper sticker self-improvement statement. It sounds really good. Shoot for the moon. So yeah, take your wildest shot, and even if you miss, you're going to end up somewhere better than you are today. That's not true entirely. There are a lot of people that take a shot and they go out of business and then things go badly.
Yeah.
I think it's
the majority,
just,
actually.
Yeah, we're removing all the circumstances that come with the quote unquote failure. Now again, I'm not telling you not to take a shot. I'm not telling you not to chase your dreams. I'm not telling you not to set massive goals. Whatever feels right, whatever you feel ready to do. But the problem with a lot of the one-liners and stuff like that is it doesn't get to the awareness of what's real. Try hard and believe in yourself. Yeah, those are two very important things, but that's not everything. There's so much that is required under that actually matters. Love conquers all. No, it doesn't.
Yeah, no.
It definitely doesn't. I can show you a list of relationships where it didn't, and I can show you another list of relationships where they probably hung on too long because they loved each other. Love is not enough. Is it a requirement?
What are the stats on that?
What?
What is the divorce rate at this point?
I believe it's over 50% in the U.S. If I had to venture a guess.
For those of you who are global, forgive us for being ignorant Americans.
Yeah, that I don't know. I don't know what.
As of May 2024, the divorce rate in the United States is around 42%.
Oh, okay.
So it's gone down. That's good.
Well, okay.
I would wonder what it would be if for people who got married in their 20s, because I know that's you don't really know who you are fully. And again, if you got married in your 20s, I'm not trying to offend you. Is divorce common after 20 years of marriage? Older couples are now those most likely to divorce. That's interesting. I was on with a podcast. Ron and Marty. I was on a podcast last week. They've been together 56 years. I said, whoa. Welcome to the 0.001%. That's wild. But anyways, continue.
I think I was just about...
What are some other bumper sticker...
I told you I was going to be drawing blanks when you put me on the spot.
You got it. You did. Okay, love conquers all.
Love conquers all.
Shoot for the moon, you'll land amongst the stars. Yeah, work hard and believe in yourself.
Work hard and believe in yourself.
What are some of the other ones that you listened to when you were
If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
That is wildly untrue, yeah. If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. That isn't even remotely accurate.
No, because it's going to come with stuff that you don't enjoy.
Always.
I think everything does.
Well, let's break down each one of those. Okay, love conquers all. So and again, on this episode for all the listeners, we're not trying to be overly negative. We're trying to be constructive. we're trying to drive to 5. On one end is toxic negativity. We've talked about this before, and it's you can't achieve anything. Nothing's going to happen for you. No matter how hard you try, everything's going to suck. Work is work, and it always sucks. That's not what we're saying. That's toxic negativity. Toxic positivity is it's all going to work out regardless of effort. If it's up to you, it'll if it's meant to be, it'll be. It's overly affirming. So on one end, one extreme, everything's overly affirming, and it mitigates responsibility and the truth of how hard things actually are. It's social media bumper sticker, over the top affirming, social media highlight reel stuff. And then on the other end, it's basically overly negative, nothing's possible for you type of thing. We're trying to find 5 in this episode. We're trying to get to 5. We're trying to get to center. We're trying to get a constructive amount of truth. We're trying to be accurate in our thinking about ourselves, other people, and the world. And that's what I really try to help people with ultimately is if your GPS is calibrated wrong, you're going to drive into a mountain and then blame yourself. When in reality, the guidance you got was probably wrong. Kevin and I don't want anyone accidentally driving into a lake because the GPS had the wrong data. That's the metaphor, I think. Okay, so what are some other ones?
The hard part about it is even something like, let's just say love conquers all. Let's just say that. Love conquers all. Let's go with that one. The problem is there are so many truths on both ends.
Yeah.
Let's say you have children with a partner and you fall out of love, but you stay together for your children. You don't love each other anymore the way you used to. What's conquering all is maybe the love of your children. Yeah, okay, I'm willing to stay in this relationship with this person because I love my children. I want to make sure that they grow up in X environment. Cool. All right, but that's a subset. Then there's another piece of it where just because you love somebody or you love something doesn't mean it's good for you.
Yeah.
Quite the opposite for some things. So love doesn't conquer all in that scenario. If you're not working on yourself, then it doesn't really matter. Like your part can love you over the moon, but if you don't love yourself, that's a whole different thing. So it's just in the moment, it's just top of. It's just not deep. Yeah, it's just tip of the iceberg. It probably will make you feel better in a vacuum, but that's not the thing that's going to change.
When people say in a vacuum, what the hell are they talking about?
Not sure.
I don't know if I've ever.
Not sure. And you're a son of a bitch for calling me out on it.
Honestly, I don't even know if I know what they mean.
I think it just means in an echo silo.
Chamber.
Yeah,
Right?
in an echo chamber, in a silo, probably disconnected from all other things.
Yeah.
I would say.
In other words,
by oneself.
In one circumstance, toward one goal, in one context.
Probably,
that kind of thing? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds cool, though.
I say it a lot. Nobody's ever questioned it, so I never had to. Maybe I'll say that's good. I'll do, because that's the thing is you're hearing people say stuff that they might not have actually done research on. That's a really good example of it. I don't know. I've never looked up what does it mean to be in a vacuum. I just assumed it was like in a silo because I know what that means, and in an echo chamber, I know what that means. I assume it's the same thing, but that's a really good example.
Hold on.
Do it. A lot of Googling on today's episode.
Okay. It's an idiom in a vacuum, separated from outside events or influences.
Nice.
The group was operating in a vacuum, cut off from the rest of the world. The city's riots did not happen in a vacuum. Okay. So, cut off from the rest of circumstances, it makes sense to shoot for the moon and land amongst the stars, right?
Except circumstances are life. And you'll never be without circumstances. Because a life without circumstances does not exist. Without
context. This is the hardest part about this space. You and I have worked diligently, and I think we've done a really good job at this, although I think we've done a terrible job at many things. I do think we've done a really good job at helping people improve their lives. To the extent, in what area, perfectly, definitely not, but I'm very proud of what we've built in the sense of everything we've done basically for the last 7 years was at least in an effort to help others improve their life.
I would agree.
I got two messages yesterday that I put in my Deepest Why folder that were thanking us for the amazing work we do. And I need it. I need that sometimes because sometimes I wonder. And I just need to retether to why we do this. Because most other things would be easier. Most other things would be easier than selling self-improvement because self-improvement is hard. This is a harder road. It's easier to pretend you're going to be successful than to actually look at the truth of why you won't.
It's almost like instead of a pizza shop, so there's right next door to NLU, there's a pizza shop. You go in, they got pepperoni, whatever you want made for you.
Yeah, delicious.
Come over to NLU, you got to go out and you got to find the dough and you got to go find the pepperoni and you got to build the oven and then you got to bake it and then you got to cut it. And then you have to run the pizza shop for the rest of the day and then eventually you get to eat your pizza. Maybe.
But the pizza
sucks.
No, it doesn't taste
Cold.
good. But you learn how to build your own pizza shop and you learn how to...
In this analogy, yes.
In this metaphor, yeah.
It's hard. Self-improvement is very, very, very hard. That's the thing. Even I think everybody is guilty of this because how much time are you given? We get to the end of a podcast episode as a guest and they say, what are your final remarks? What is your closing statement?
I actually enjoy that a lot, but every time I'm wondering what I'm supposed to say because I can't...
I say the same thing every time.
Talk to me?
Not necessarily. I say your reality becomes the parts of your imagination that you hold on to and pour into the longest. And then I tell the story about how 7 episodes in, I said I want to wake up when I want, and I told that story. And I said, here we are, 1,800 episodes later, and that's what I get to do. But the truth of the matter is, over the last 7 years, the thing that I hung on to the tightest was this podcast dream. And the thing that I poured into the most was this podcast dream. And I have let go of a lot of things I wish I didn't have to, and I've stopped pouring into things that I wish I could continue to pour into.
Same.
That's the best I can do in terms of giving you a bumper sticker statement and then explaining why, to me, it's important. But the rest of that shit ain't going to fit on the bumper sticker. Even the quote isn't. That's too long for a bumper sticker. But that's why it's so hard.
I knew this was going to be a great episode. I want to share what I normally go to. So that's your go-to at the end.
It
Almost
depends
every
on the show.
podcaster. I know. So not every podcaster does this, but usually there's some form of, do you have any final... There's some form of this question. If you could put a quote up on a billboard for the whole world to see it, if you could do a TED Talk on one topic, what would it be and why? If you could give the world one last piece of advice, if you could tell my listeners one thing you wish you knew when you were younger, like those types of questions. Yeah. And every single time, it's the same flavor, but I always try to make it a little better. That's my rule, is I have to make it a little better this time.
I'm guessing in my brain what it is.
Do you want to share first?
No. No, because if it's not it... No, because then it just takes it off the rails. I have it in my mind.
It's ask my business partner, Kevin Palmieri. He knows better than I.
He has the answer. Yes,
but
that's exactly what I was thinking. It's very humble of you. It's very humble of you to admit the truth, finally. After all these years, I'm going to get the shine I deserve.
I essentially say this, some form of this. Life is unbelievably challenging. Some of us, it's challenging for more than others. But it's challenging for all of us. And despite the fact that it's unbelievably challenging, and it always will be, and it always has been, although it varies in frequency, intensity, density, and duration for all of us, you can make it meaningful by taking personal responsibility and making better choices. You do not have control over what happens to you. I certainly didn't in my childhood. But you do have control over what you say, think, do, feel, and believe. You do have a choice. But ironically, paradoxically, you don't unless you know that. So you have to take personal responsibility for how your life turns out, despite how devastatingly challenging it is. And if you do that, I can't promise you success and fulfillment, but I can promise you it will end up better than it would have otherwise. And that's the best I've got.
Okay. So I had choices in mind. I thought it was going to be the farmer or the CEO was my expectation for the story. But choices.
Aim high and you'll have choices.
Aim high.
I
and
do
you'll have
think
choices.
dude, I think choices is the root. And,
But even that quote, aim high and you'll have choices, not true. That's not
Yeah.
true. Aim high, you'll have debt. Aim high and you might have heartbreak. And again, I'm not saying not to do it. I'm just saying
if you aim
be
high
aware of
and
it.
commit to it, because it's kind of the same as the imagination. If you aim high and hold it in your imagination and pour into it the longest, you will have choices. But only if you have self-belief, if you have humility, if you have resilience, if you have grit,
Right.
if you have resources, if.
Here's the truth. I wouldn't have made it if it wasn't for Alan. So even that quote isn't entirely... I mean, would I have made it further than the average podcaster? I don't know. I like to think so. Would I have made it here?
I think you would have.
No.
But again, I couldn't. I don't know. But my intuition says that, for sure.
I appreciate it. But even that, it's like there are so many things that... I feel like there are way more things that have to go right for you to be successful than there are things that have to go wrong for you to be unsuccessful.
Yeah. Okay, wait. Go ahead.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that was one of the good things. That was one of the good things. Sorry. Kevin, let me clarify. I have certain quotes that I've stolen from Kevin
Yeah.
that
borrowed.
I do give you credit for, borrowed. And that might be one of them. Go ahead.
I believe more things have to line up for you to be successful than things have to line up for you to be unsuccessful. It doesn't...
You said it better the first time.
I know.
It's
but
almost
I
like
say
you need
things
more
and then they
things to
away.
go right to be successful than things to go wrong not to be.
Something like that. But I don't know how to say... You know how... sometimes
Speaking of
you use...
bumper sticker self-improvement, we obviously...
this couldn't be one because it's way too freaking long. I don't know when to use than. Doesn't it sound weird when you use than without rather? Am I the only person who deals with that? It is like a conundrum that keeps me up at night.
I know the difference between then and than.
Same.
Than is a
I'm
comparison.
35 years old. Of course I know the difference between the two.
But
Thank
dude,
you
I
so
didn't
much.
for a long time, honestly. If then, I was a computer programmer, so if then, we don't use than.
Well, than is a comparison. Yeah, it's a comparison.
But
in comparison.
In coding, you compare all the time, and I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, it's fair.
If then statements.
Again, I did not do well in that class. The teacher and I did not get along.
Awesome. Big fan.
I hated it. Yeah, no, hated it. Let me build this website, and one of my effing parentheses is off, so the whole thing doesn't work. And now I have to go through and find what parenthesis is off.
That's what life is, man. That's what we do on this podcast. Figure out where the parentheses off.
Yeah, but the parentheses aren't on the keyboard.
They're in your life.
Shit.
They're in your beliefs.
I like my life. I don't like typing.
Okay. I'm just saying we're reprogramming each other and ourselves and the listeners every time people... That's all I'm saying.
100%. 100%. I don't want this to be a negative episode. That's all. I don't want anybody... Like, imagine if this is the first time somebody tuned in to NLU. They're going to be like, what? I thought you guys were about positive self-improvement. No, I swear we are. I'm not saying not to do any of this.
Hello, NLU listener. Thank you, as always, for listening to Next Level University. Real quick, I just want to jump in and let you know about the Next Level Dreamliner. This is a journal that I use every single day. Achieve your dreams 90 days at a time. It breaks down your dreams into goals, milestones, and daily habits. We hope you enjoy it. The link will be in the show notes.
We were talking about this. I don't know if we were saying this off the scenes or behind the scenes or on the show, but imagine if everything had to have the same disclaimers that pharmaceutical companies have.
Yeah.
Did we say that on the air?
You did, yeah.
Imagine
someone reached out and said they loved that episode, by the way.
Awesome.
Someone reached out to me and said I loved that. Yeah.
Shout out to whoever that was. Imagine at the end of this episode. Imagine this. If we got to the end of this episode and we said, Next Level University is super grateful that you listen, blah, 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 blah. Just a reminder, Alan and Kevin have results that are not typical for most podcasters. If you do sign up to work, if you do sign up to chase your dreams, you most likely will work more than anybody you've ever met in your life if you want to be successful.
Yeah.
You most likely will be wildly misinterpreted by most of the people around you. You will learn things about yourself that change your life in the best, most magnificent ways, but also you'll learn stuff about yourself that you wish you didn't have to. And we just went on about all the potential negatives that come with the positives.
That would be so awesome. We should do a whole episode on that.
But nobody would listen.
Why?
Because the only reason the drug companies have to do that is because there's so many potential negative downsides. And it's like that with everything. That's why reviews are so important when you buy something on Amazon, because they are never going to tell you the downsides. The gym, when you go sign up to the gym membership, they don't tell you you have to jump through hoops to cancel. Oh, Mr. Palmieri, hello, long time no speak. How are you? Oh, Brittany, I just wanted to cancel my membership. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem at all. Are you still located in the area? No, I live several states away. That is unfortunate. We're actually going to need you to shoot out here in person, and you're going to have to sign the contract saying you don't want to be here anymore. I never read that in the contract. Oh, yeah, we don't put it in there. Because if we put it in there, you'd never sign the contract in the first place. When can we expect you? You know what I mean? Everybody does their best to not show the negatives, because if you know the negatives, you won't sign up for the positives. Potentially.
That doesn't land at all for me.
You're weird. You're a weird person. You're a weird thing.
I don't have anything to say to that. Do you think that life is supposed to suck? Like, am I the only one in that camp?
No, I don't think it's supposed to suck. I don't expect it to be easy.
Yeah.
There's a difference. There's a difference.
Relatively speaking. I watched a movie yesterday. It was garbage, in my opinion. It wasn't good. Pride and Prejudice. Again, some people like it. It is what it is. But I thought it was really good perspective for me because it was a period piece from the 1800s, early 1800s, late 1700s.
I watch movies to escape. You watch movies to get lessons and perspective and contrast. And
I think it's the best study of the human condition. I think film is the reason we resonate so deeply with these shows and these characters is because it's parts of us. Yeah. So I know I'm weird. We all know that. That's awesome, I guess.
I mean, in a good way, not a bad way.
I appreciate it. I really do. Because honestly, I've always felt very weird. But
well, anytime I say that, just know it's in positive, not negative.
I do know that. I think that there's pros and cons to me too, though. Right?
Same.
Me being weird. Yeah. And that's when we say, okay, the reason why that movie was good perspective for me is because of how crappy life was back then, in relatively speaking. I mean, when you watch the film, they did a great job at making it authentic. I mean, it was very clear to the point where I think the actors and the actresses purposely had worse teeth because of the time, because they were in England. And I don't know if you know this, but the English are notorious for bad teeth or whatever.
The only reason I knew is because of Austin Powers.
Okay, fair. Well, the point.
And again, if you live there, I'm not making fun. I just in Austin Powers, that was like a point where they just kept saying it. And I was like, is that a thing?
I never knew that was. Apparently, it is. I don't know. Same. But real quick, speaking of a lesson from a movie that's not lessons, I'm unhappy because I eat, and I eat because I'm unhappy. It's a vicious cycle. I think all of us are in vicious cycles. Another time for another episode. But the point is, of Pride and Prejudice, it was good for me to see how much life used to be harder back then. Because starting this business, growing this brand, helping people, serving, impact, leading a team, running a household, being cat and dog dads, being in relationships, being holistic, health, wealth, life, and love has been unbelievably difficult. But the truth of the matter is, how could it not be? Okay, I was on the treadmill yesterday. We went for a workout, and I could not finish this freaking workout. So I was like gassed, and I was struggle bussing, and the first 35 minutes were just cranking. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go walk. I'm going to go walk on the treadmill and finish the 40 minutes. Because I was approaching burnout. And I get on the treadmill, and I'm just people watching. Because it's in front of the window sill. And it's the middle of a Sunday. I mean, we went at 11 a.m. or something, 12 p.m. And so it's the middle of a Sunday. Everyone's at the grocery store. My gym's right next to the grocery store. I know you know that. You used to work out there. And I was people watching. And I had a moment where I thought to myself, a lot of people are in a lot of pain. And this is not me trying to be negative or judgmental. I felt bad. There was a lot of people that are in a lot of pain, particularly physically. And maybe this is mostly in America. A lot of my clients from all over the world have said, like, Americans are seriously overweight. I mean, you went to Scotland. I don't know if there was a difference or not. But in the U.S., we have the biggest obesity problem in the world, essentially. From my understanding. I could Google it, but I do believe that's true. But I looked around, and I just had this moment of sadness for people. And I thought to myself, wow, life really is hard. life is just really hard. I mean, it's hard to work out every day. That's why almost no one does it. Emilia and I have worked out every day for almost 2.5 years, and I'm not trying to brag. I'm trying to, that has been alarmingly difficult to sustain. I'm talking alarmingly hard. And it's not like, I mean, we both work from home. Our gym is 2 minutes away. We have a nice little community that's safe that we can walk our dog in. I mean, we have advantages, real advantages, and it's still unreasonably difficult. So for me, my baseline is life is kind of terrible, and that's okay. Despite that, we can make it meaningful. And I just feel like that's such an empowering belief. Why? Because it's accurate. I think if anyone has any naivete that life is easy or good or going to be great or it's all going to work out, I feel like life is, of course, going to just humble the hell out of them. And I hope that we can share the truth with people, which is life is better now in the 21st century, statistically speaking, than it's ever been. But if you want to achieve your goals, it's going to be unbelievably difficult, and it's going to be full of sadness and rejection and vulnerability and courage and hardship and health challenges and family challenges and deaths and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's just, statistically speaking, it's significantly better. Everyone's quality of life, statistically, globally, has increased drastically. You can research this. But the human condition, by definition, is just really, really, really challenging. And I do feel like that's super empowering.
I think life is hard. I think the sucks part is where I get off. It's like, I mean, sometimes it does, yeah. But I don't think...
Would you say it's hard more than it's easy?
Yeah. I would say they go hand in hand.
That's probably a better way to say it then. Yeah.
I think they go hand in hand. If you're trying to make your life easy, you might be making it very, very hard later. And if your life is very, 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 very hard right now, but again, even this, that's a freaking blanket statement. If your life is really challenging right now, in the future it won't be. That's not true necessarily.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe you didn't choose the hard that you have right now.
Yeah.
And, maybe you're living on the street. You didn't choose that. It doesn't mean eventually you're going to be living in a mansion. Yeah. Unfortunately, right? We say, one of the questions I get asked often is, what is your number one lesson from the podcast, Ben? And I'll usually say, I remember when we first started interviewing people, I would hear this unbelievably tragic, traumatic, inhumane story that somebody has gone through. And I would think to myself, I'll never hear anything like that again. And then the next week I heard the same thing, just in a different way. And then it just became a pattern of, does everybody have one of these intense, life-changing stories? And oftentimes I'll say your adversity can be your advantage.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it will be. I'm not saying
how many of those, and we'll use Anthony Trucks as an example because his story is public. Yes. He's shared it publicly. Anthony Trucks is, I actually saw him, I liked one of his posts recently, and I'm a big fan. And we met him in person and all that. But at the end of the day, Anthony's story is devastatingly bad. Yeah. His childhood was one of the worst I've ever heard. And licking boots for food and all kinds of, just foster care and all that. So, and then he was in the NFL, and now he's a world-renowned speaker, and now he makes a lot of money, and he's at the Super Bowl, and he's got a family and kids, and so he's one of the, but he said this on our show. He said, statistically, this is supposed to be impossible, so I'm just grateful. And I'm grateful for his honesty in that, because statistically speaking, his adversity became his advantage, but that's because he had a ton of self-belief. And when you're around him, he does. He does. And so I've been saying that on podcasts too, because people will ask me, how did you do it? How did you get through all that? How did you lose 3 families? And how did you... I said, listen, I had 2 really big advantages. And I said I had a really, 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 really powerful mind. My brain is really good. I don't know where I got it. I'm grateful. I've always been really smart. And without that, no chance. Hey, no chance. And number 2, I was born in a country that invests in powerful brains. And I got scholarships and financial aid that allowed me to go to one of the best tech schools in the world. And if I didn't do that, I'm not convinced I'd be here. But I believed in myself a ton. And if you take away those 3 things, there's no freaking way that this, in its current state would be possible. And I still bank on those 3 things. I mean, think about it. You and I, when we go through hard times, what are the 3 that I bank on? At least the first 2, self-belief and go back to the drawing board. Okay, let's whiteboard. Let's mastermind. My brain can figure out a way to get us out of this, to get us through this, to grow through this.
It's a challenging episode because, again, our goal is not to take wind out of the sails. I just think if there's too much wind being put in the sails, it's potentially negative.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. I'm just not trying to reaffirm. We had someone one time that said they had the opportunity to see a very, very inspirational, motivational speaker speak. And they said, that was the best speech I've ever heard in my entire life. I am so inspired. I am going to crush life. And they went for a run like 3 or 4 days in a row, and then they stopped. Because that inspiration and that motivation and that emotion wore off. Understandably so. It happens. I remember I used to get this. I had a bad habit of this. I would get Chinese food. This was back when I lived in Uxbridge. I lived on Seagrave Street in Uxbridge. I'm not going to say the number, but I lived on Seagrave Street back in this point. And I would get Chinese food from Foodworks, which is a place down, not downtown, but kind of downtown. And I would watch Never Back Down, one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a mixed martial arts movie. It's terrible. It's cheesy. But there's this point where he's training, getting ready for the big fight, and I'd be like, I got to go to the gym. I got to put this crab rangoon down, and I got to go to the gym. And I would often go to the gym because I was so inspired.
Great, worst macros in the game, but so
whatever.
delicious.
They taste so good. But I would literally be so motivated and so inspired that I would go to the gym. But that's not going to work every time. It's not sustainable. It's not. Motivation and inspiration, to me, are a fuel that burns very hot but very quickly. I think purpose, and I think passion, and I think reverse engineering regret, those things are fuels that burn much, much slower, much, much cooler, but for a longer period of time. And that's really what this episode to me is about. If you feel better when you hear stuff like that, awesome. If you feel better and then you go do better, that's even better. But if you just feel better, I can't guarantee anything no matter what, but I can't guarantee that your life's going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
I want that for you. Yeah, I do want you to feel better, but not at the expense of your future being not as bright. And obviously there's levels to that, right? So that would be kind of what I would wrap up with is just like one of the things I heard a lot as a kid is, and it wasn't super serious, but I heard it enough to remember it. Life sucks and then you die. That's something I heard often when I was younger. That's not true.
Yeah.
That's toxic.
That's too depressing. Yeah, that's
too
far on the other end. Yep.
So
I remember I heard these are the best years of your life. In high school, I heard that over and over and over.
That's too far on the other end.
It's not true.
Right.
And I said, God, I hope not.
But if I was talking to somebody and they said, well, Kev, it doesn't matter. Life sucks and then you die. My advice to them would be drastically different than what I'm saying on this podcast. It would be, that's not true.
Yeah.
I can imagine that maybe some of the people that you grew up around or maybe you were raised by probably felt that way, but that's because they don't have purpose like you do.
Yeah.
That's because they don't know where they're going. They don't have their thing. They don't have their mission. Your life is going to be very, very bright. It's very possible for you to turn things around.
That's why I always try to say, sorry to interrupt you, that's why I always try to say life sucks, but despite that, you can make it meaningful and fulfilling. That's one without the other is the bumper sticker.
Yeah, that's fair.
Life is really hard, but despite that, you can create a meaningful, fulfilling life out of that hard. If X, Y, Z. And so I don't like to ever say just the blanket statement of life sucks. That's not true. Life doesn't just suck. Life kind of sucks, but despite that, if you believe in yourself, if you improve yourself, if you take action, if, then you can make it meaningful and fulfilling, and your adversity can become your advantage, especially if you have the humility to get a coach or a mentor. And I've had dozens of coaches and mentors, and truth be told, in hindsight, a lot of them didn't know what the hell they were talking about, but some of them definitely did. We talked about one earlier, and it was, he was more right than I thought.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful. I've had a lot of coaches and mentors in corporate and all that kind of stuff. So, the guidance wasn't perfect, but it was certainly better than no guidance. And it definitely wasn't as good as what hopefully we're providing on this show. So
Tough one. I knew this would be a tough episode. Alan's been wanting to do this for weeks, and I kept pushing it off. Not because I didn't think it would be valuable, but just because it's really hard to find the middle in stuff like this. It's hard to find the middle. It's hard to find 5. It's hard to drive to 5 when it comes to stuff like this. But hopefully you enjoyed. If you are looking for a group of like-minded, positive humans who are into growth, I know maybe you feel lonely. It's easy to feel lonely now. It's easy to segment yourself off from other people. It's hard to be yourself. It's hard to put yourself out there to talk about what you really care about. If you care deeply about self-improvement and improving your life, join Next Level Nation, our private Facebook group. You'll be safe there to grow, and it is watered daily.
So this episode was built on bumper sticker self-improvement. The reason I personally I love podcasting, I do. Top 3, coaching, training, podcasting. Those are my top 3. But podcasting is third for a reason. And the reason why is because I adore customizing the strategy, customizing the advice, customizing the guidance, customizing the habits, customizing the metrics to you specifically. Because we have to cast a wider net on this show and we have to talk a little bit more holistically. Whereas if you coach with me, you can book a free session. My free 30-minute link will be in the show notes. And I'll take you through the whole program. I'll take you through what it's like. I offer monthly, bi-weekly, and weekly. And you can start monthly and build if you want. And it's definitely super, super affordable, more than you think. So reach out, book. But ultimately, my favorite thing is the fact that I get to completely customize everything to you specifically. Your context, your goals, your core values, your lifestyle, what's meaningful to you, progress, purpose toward goals. And on the podcast, we have to talk very high level. And that's why Kevin and I are constantly pitching and catching of, well, what about someone over here? And what about someone over there? And it's really good. I like that we do that holistically. But coaching is much more targeted to you specifically.
As always, we love you. As much as it might not seem it in this episode, trust me, it's from a place of love, heart-driven, but no BS. We appreciate you. We are grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Please reach out.